Hi, my name is Miranda and my company name is True North Handcrafted. I make tumblers with epoxy and various things, and I also make these labels for tumbler bottoms. And if you're interested in that, just send me a PM and through Facebook, and we can talk about what to do for you. So I make these videos every other week for Pressing Images Facebook group, and she's your one-stop tumbler supply shop. Whether you do epoxy, crystal-lac, or sublimation, she's got just about anything you can think of that you might need. I do epoxy tumblers, so she has epoxy. She has the DIY epoxy. She also she's the Canadian distributor for them. She has tumblers of all shapes and sizes, and she's got really good quality. She has mica powders, she has glitters, she has specialty vinyls, she has printed vinyls, and alcohol inks and molds, and so just about anything that you can think of that you need to make a tumbler, pressingimages.com has it. So she's just missing the spray paint, and who knows, maybe one day she'll carry that too. So she's always looking for new ways to make us all happy. So I am going to be this week using materials that are not made for tumblers and are actually only made to be used on a porous surface. I've been trying to figure out for a long time how to use these things on a tumbler, and so I finally figured it out, and this is my experiment. So hopefully you find this inspiring or creative or something. Just a side note, I don't know how to do video editing, and so there's going to be long gaps in this video. Somebody please teach me how to speed up portions of a video. I can speed up the whole thing and make my voice go really fast, but I haven't figured out how to do just a part of a video. So if anybody has any advice for me, that'd be great. But feel free to fast forward through the parts that are repetitive and maybe longer than you really want to watch. So I apologize in advance for that, and feel free to skip ahead. So anyway, you want to see the final product of this because I'm quite pleased with how it eventually turned out. So hopefully you find it helpful. Let's get on with the experiment. Hi guys, today I'm going to do an experiment. Been racking my brains figuring out, or trying to figure out, how to use these distressed Ranger things with tumblers, because these are meant to go on porous surfaces, and when you put them on a glossy surface they don't work, and I'll show you what I mean by that. I have this piece of tile here, and if I take a little bit of that color and put it on there and spray it with water, as soon as it gets wet it goes all yucky. So it doesn't work on non-porous surfaces. So I have all of these things thinking I was going to make a patina type of thing, and I think I might have figured it out. So we're going to do an experiment, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but we'll give it a shot. So I have this 15-ounce skinny from Pressing Images, which is actually a really nice sized cup. I find the 20-ounce skinnies for myself, I only feel that I can make 2 cups of coffee and put in there, and I don't drink that much coffee on the go. So the 15 ounce is about the right size for my coffee in the morning. 20 ounces is perfect for other kinds of beverages, but this is what I'm going to use for this. This is a nice little cup, and I've got brown stuff all over my hands. I'm peeling the foamy off. So I've got distressed oxide, spiced marmalade, rusty hinge, distress ink. I know that there's a difference between them, but I'm not sure what it is. But I've just got this little 3-pack of them. Walnut, vintage photo, and antique linen. I'm not sure I'm going to use all of these. And then I have these sprays. Just for distressed oxide, I have peacock feathers, cracked pistachio, and Mermaid Lagoon. So, and then I have a little spritzer bottle of just water. That's all that's in there. These are all found in the same place in Michael's. These need to be shaken. These are heavily pigmented, but it feels kind of dry when you touch it. And I have one of these handled things that have the hook and loop, just actually the hook part on it, and these foamy circles. They're mini ink blending foam to apply it all. So here's where I can't just apply this to the tumbler and have it work. So here's where my creative, hopefully genius, comes in. Is I have this piece of tissue paper here. It's just white tissue paper. But you'll notice on one side of it, it's kind of shiny, and the other side is not. So you don't want to do it on the shiny side. You want to do it on the matte side. And I'm not going to need all of this, but I'm going to need a fair chunk of it. But I'm just going to do, because it's going to all crinkle up, and it's going to wrap around the cup. So let's just figure out approximately how much I'm going to need. And so I could cut this in half, just so I don't have to do it all and then throw a bunch away if it doesn't work. So I'm going to cut this in half and set that piece aside. I'm going to do the full length of it. I might not get all the way to the edges, but I'm going to do the full length of it because I'm going to crumple it all up and crinkle it on the cup to make it look a little bit more textured and interesting. So I'm going to roll this up in a nice little ball and then spread it out. And already it's a little smaller. Now I'm going to start with this orange. And because there's nothing on here yet, I'm not worried about contaminating this pad. So I'm just going to take it and I'm just going to put it in random spots. I'm going to layer this. I'm just going to randomly put some spots darker than others. More pressure, and I'm just going to this mat that I have on here is actually a fondant rolling mat. You want something that's going to be totally water resistant when you're working with this kind of thing, because you don't want it to soak through into your table surface. Not that my table surface is a nice, clean, neat little thing. Alrighty, so now I'm going to take some of this rusty hinge. I'm going to use this tool because I don't want to get orange on this because it'll contaminate it. So I'm just going to take this and I'm going to rub it over the top of this surface, and it just picks it up a little bit. Oop. Because I'm crumpling it, ripping it doesn't really matter a whole lot. And this is just a darker orange, and you just need to be a little bit careful because you're working with tissue paper, Miranda. Okay, so now I think the vintage photo, take this off. This is water soluble, so I'm not worried about getting it on my hands. And I'm going to do the same thing. And you can see you really don't need a lot, like it's just a little bit that's on here. Now I have to be careful around this tear because it's just getting worse. Well, it's just really about layering colors at this point, just going over and over. And if I can ever figure out how to speed up video, I'll speed up through this part so you're not having to watch this for an hour. Alright, now I'm going to switch to the darker brown. I'm not even going to bother to change this because the lighter brown is not really going to contaminate the darker brown. It's just a different shade. You can see how it's filling in all the cracks and crevices. It's kind of neat. I just want depth and layers of color. That's what I'm going for here, and it's going to just, I think, add to the look, and it just looks kind of random and a little bit like fall, actually. All right, now comes the fun part. So I'm going to start with the cracked pistachio, and I'm going to shake it up a bit because it's got a ball in there, so it needs to be shaken. My scissors out of the way. These just snap really nicely, these little ones. And I'm going to just hold my sprayer a little bit away, quite a bit away. Can't really pick that up right now. You know, these beautiful, actually the only reason I picked this one up is because I couldn't get this color in the pads at my Michael's, so I picked up the sprayer. And I'm going to add this Mermaid Lagoon. And peacock feather. Cleanup is really easy with this stuff. You just have to wipe it with some water. Oh, I like that. So we're just going to, I'm going to just take a little bit of this water spray to do some blending. And just spray over top, just a little bit. Now this is tissue paper and it's wet, so we need to let that dry before we handle it at all. And we will come back after it's dry, and I'm going to, I have some gorgeous metallic patina flakes that I'm going to use on the cup as well, so it's not so dull looking, but I'm going to work on this and let it dry and just leave it for now and see what we come up with. Okay, my paper here is now dry, and we're going to move on to adding this onto our cup. It's not quite so easily washed off of your skin as it is non-porous surfaces, just so you know. Usually I wear gloves when I do stuff, so I didn't, because I know that this is water based. So this is how it looks right now, and I'm just going to use some Mod Podge, and I'm going to crinkle it as I go when I go to put it onto the cup, and get it all nice and textured. So that's the plan anyway. So I have Mod Podge. This is the yellow labeled Mod Podge, which is just what I had. I put it in this silicone topped condiment bottle that I got off Amazon, and it works pretty good for doing stuff like this. And this is also from a Mod Podge brush, but it's Teflon. Any brushes that have that color of bristles are a Teflon brush, and that's the best thing to use for glue. So I'm just going to apply a little bit of glue onto my cup and spread it out a little evenly, kind of like doing a fabric cup. And I'm just going to crinkle and smush my paper down onto here, because I am looking for texture and wrinkles and stuff. I'm doing that on purpose. I should have folded that over the edge. That's what I should have done. We're not going to get it peeled up here, so we'll just do that part separately, I guess. Okay. You could use, this is Mod Podge, but you could use the Crystal Glitter glue for this process as well. That would work too. I don't know if you're going to lose the wrinkles in the texture when you put epoxy on, because sometimes that happens with things like paint. If you texture, get a textured look with paint, like for beer bubbles or on an oil can lid or whatever, it goes away when you epoxy. So don't really want that hair in there. Because this is paper, I'm going to cover it with a couple of layers of Mod Podge over top, just to seal it, because what happens with paper and fabric and porous things that are not sealed before you epoxy, the epoxy seeps into them and leaves dark spots where you don't want them to be. Okay. So I've managed to get all the way around. Now I'm going to do the bottom separately because I didn't think to start it that way. I guess the nice thing about doing such a random wrinkles and stuff is it really doesn't matter, but you're still dealing with kind of a delicate surface here, so you want to be a little bit more gentle than I just was there. You could do this more like a decoupage and just tear off strips. Which I'll show you right now doing this part. I'm just going to brush this glue down all over my bottom. So you could easily do that instead of just doing a full wrap. It's just quicker to do the full wrap. Okay, and I saw a couple little spots in here that got a little torn. Looks kind of a hot mess right now, but we'll continue to work on that. Okay, and I ripped a little spot off right there, so fix that right there. So I'm going to apply a layer of Mod Podge all the way around here just to seal it all up. I'm just going to be careful that all of my edges are down and I don't make any tears in the paper. I really hope that this turns out as awesome as I think it's going to. In my head. Things don't always pan out when I have ideas like this, but sometimes they do. That's the beautiful thing about putting this into a condiment bottle instead of a bowl or some other vessel, is you can just pour it right on. I don't know what you're for. Should have probably stuck my pool noodle handle on this before I started this process. Alrighty, I am going to now let this sit for, I know it looks a bit of a mess right now because everything's all wet, and the glue is actually doing some blending work here as well. So because it's water-based. So I'm going to let this sit and figure out what it's doing, and we have some extras here if we need to fix up any spots. Let me just pick you up, but I need you laying down. And go from there. So I'll do another at least 2 coats of Mod Podge on this, and then I'll come back. Okay, I have put 2 layers of glue on this, and we've clearly hit an ugly phase, but I imagine that once I get my patina flakes on here and get a coat of epoxy on here, it's going to look a whole lot better. I still have hope that this is going to work out the way I want it to, and whatnot. So I am just going to, I mean, I wanted texture, so I have some good texture here. So I am going to just randomly place, tack it over and over glue, which dries tacky. So when it's dry, I can apply the flakes to it and it should stick really nicely. I don't know how I got blue all over my finger just now. Probably from, oh, because I sprayed extra blue on here. That's why it's not, I wasn't quite happy with how green it was, so I sprayed some extra Mermaid Lagoon onto it. That's, since my hands are coming up blue right now, but that's okay. So I'm just gonna look for some natural places to stick my flakes and in with my texture, and I'm gonna just put the tacky glue and just do it kind of like doing veining, and I'm just going to take my brush and spread it out a little bit so it dries a little quicker. I'll just follow some of my textured lines to try and help that along and see how it's all going to pan out. And when you're doing any kind of veining kind of things, like when I'm doing my pastel marbles, I don't have them all going one direction because then it just looks like stripes. I like to mix up which way they're going. And with the tack it over and over, it has to be tacked over and over or something like that. Otherwise you have to wait and catch other kinds of glues that dry hard and clear. You have to catch them at just the right amount of tacky to be able to stick it, but this I can leave it for, well, I can leave it overnight and it's still, because it dries like the back of a post-it note. That way the foil can stick to it. And branch off this way. When I'm doing a marble, my lines are much thinner than this. I want my foil to give it some sparkle and some depth. And so long as you see the color, because this dries clear, so long as you see the color white, or this is picking up some of the blue. This is a good line here to follow. I'm just being uber random. And I'm using my tack it over and over again full strength. I don't know where the diluting it came to be and why. I have absolutely no idea. When I first started working with it, I diluted it too, but then I'd have to put multiple coats on for my holographic glitter that it seemed to me that I was using just as much glue that way as if I used a full strength layer and just applied it. I think I've got some good random lines going here, and do a crack across the bottom. And that's kind of what like you're going for, kind of, or I'm going for anyway, is like a cracked metal showing through all of this rust and patina. All right, there's nothing for me to do now except for wait for this glue to dry, so I'll be back. Okay, with this cup, we're now going to test to see if I've got enough layers on here, because now I'm going to epoxy. I'm not real sure I'm happy with the way that this is turning out. I should have done the colors a bit differently. So what I'm going to do, I really like the foiling, that's pretty cool, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of this Eco Glitter. It has a gold shift to it, so I'm going to add a little bit of that into my epoxy before I put it on. It's going to give it a bit of a sparkle, but not like a glitter would. So I'm just going to mix that in quick. The epoxy is already mixed. So it's got just a bit of a gold sheen to it, and that'll go with the foiling that I've got going on here. So I'm just going to set that aside and turn this on. And cover over this mess. I showed my husband this and he says, "Why are you doing something that looks so rough?" And it's like, well, that's kind of the idea behind what I have going on here. So if it doesn't work, I can always strip it. That's always an option. So I'm going to need, because it is rough, to get epoxy into all of the nooks and crannies that I have going on here. So I'm going to need to do, instead of just a straight motion, just kind of scrub it into my edges. And somehow the paper is not glued right down there, so I don't know what's going on with that. And like I said, I'm not sure if I'm keeping this or if I'm stripping it, but we'll proceed to see how it's going to end up looking. Anyway, what's a little epoxy among friends, right? So that does improve it some. Maybe if my turquoisey colors were not a spray, it would have ended up looking better. I don't know. I don't know. Or maybe it's just me that thinks it doesn't look great. there we have how this is going to look right now. I just want to keep an eye on to make sure I don't have pooling in my cracks and crevices. Usually everything I do is smooth, so this is a whole new experience here. And it'll smooth out as I add layers so that the actual touch texture will be smooth. But it's looking like it may maintain its visual texture, which is what I want it to do. So I'm just making sure it's all nice and even and I don't have any pooling. And so I'm going to let that spin, and I'm going to put another layer on, and just straight epoxy, and we'll go from there and see what develops.